Hello and welcome back to another video or live stream, on the channel. Welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and in today's live stream we're going to be talking about all the latest Manchester United news, transfer news, updates and more surrounding our club. There's a few interesting things coming in today, a lot of stuff on Ten Hag, a lot of information on Ten Hag getting a new deal, and that this is a strong message to Sancho. There's actually a few things going on behind the scenes with Sancho and the FA trying to intervene and basically make sure United are treating him okay, which United say that they are. And all of that stuff as well that we'll get into as well. A bit of a boring story. Anthony has flown back to England. Anthony is set to return, obviously not to the squad yet, but he's now his case is done in Brazil. In Brazil, I think everything's been dropped now. He's now got to go over to the UK and deal with his side of things. We're also going to talk about some comments that Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher made on the overlap today, and some more news and information. Fabrizio Romano has given an interesting update on the takeover. It's not nothing massive, but it's a few interesting comments made by Fabrizio Romano. So please do go ahead and hit the like button, and of course subscribe down below if you're new, share the video and everything else. So as well as that, I do want to get into some comments that actually Eric made on Garnacho, why Garnacho's been dropped, why Garnacho's in limited minutes lately as well. And also Fabrizio did say that Manchester United are preparing a new deal for Hannibal, who was actually wanted by Sevilla on loan, but Eric Ten Hag actually rejected that and decided to keep the guy because he thought he was going to need the guy. And we're going to do an analysis on Mejbri and why we need him, because we're going to talk about Ten Hag's new midfield plan, which is incorporating the likes of Kobbie Mainoo, Hannibal, Amrabat, Mason Mount, Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro. There's instantly like 6 midfield options sort of coming around at the club. So Ten Hag's got some new interesting plans that I do want to get into as well. But I want to start off with the first story, and that is on, of course, Eric Ten Hag. News is coming out today that the Manchester United board really back Eric Ten Hag. They are willing to get behind him and even send a message to Jadon Sancho by giving him a new contract. Manchester United have already got talks underway to give him a new contract. It was said by Rob Dawson that Eric Ten Hag has the full support of the club regarding Sancho, and Richard Arnold and Murta as well are incorporated in supporting Eric Ten Hag with everything else. However, Rob Dawson did say this regarding the Sancho situation. It was said that the PFA have stressed that United are required to provide adequate standard of training for Jadon Sancho, but the club believe they've respected this by signing a specialist coach to work with him. So essentially what's happening right now behind the scenes is Sancho is complaining to the PFA about his training, la-di-da, and Man United have said, well, actually, we've given him a specialist coach to train with him, so we are giving him a good level of training. And now reports are coming out suggesting that Eric is going to get a new deal at the club to show their backing of the manager even more, to end this player power stuff. There could be more backing of Eric as well. And the reason behind that is, even though we've had a few bad results, it has been said that Manchester United reportedly planning to reward Ten Hag with a new contract as well. Do you think giving Ten Hag a new contract just a few weeks, months into the season is a good idea? I actually think it is. I know we haven't got the best results. I know things aren't going perfectly, but I think if you go and give Ten Hag a new contract, that sends a message to the squad of this guy's in charge, this guy's here to stay, this guy's in control. And I think, you know, it also stops player power, it stops a revolt. If there's a few players that have already given up and deciding not to play for the manager already, or unhappy or starting to turn on the manager, when they see the manager gets a new contract, they're like, okay, like this guy's here to stay, it's him or me. And then it's kind of a message of, you've got to get your act together. And I think if there's players that aren't willing to give 100% and already decided the manager's not for them, like Sancho, by backing the manager and giving him a new contract, that basically says you've got to get your act together. And do you know what I couldn't help but think? And I think this is quite sad that I was thinking this, but I was just thinking of how well we were playing yesterday, how I think now players are back from injuries, the season's going to turn around, we've got a nice run of games ahead. And I was thinking, you know, why doesn't Jadon want to be part of that team yesterday? I saw a team yesterday that was working really hard, that was giving 100% on the ball and off the ball, was working together, that was showing unity. And I just couldn't help but thinking, why doesn't Jadon want to be part of this? Why would he not just swallow his pride, apologise and go, you know what, I want to be a part of this. This looked like a good team. You know, the manager's here to stay. He's going to be getting a new deal. I want to be a part of this. And I think for me, the fact that, you know, we're playing so well, the fact that they're willing to give Eric a new deal, that sends a massive message to Ten Hag. That sends a massive message to Sancho saying, you've got to change. You know, we're not going to all of a sudden let you back. We're not going to cave. We back this guy. He played brilliant the other day. You're the one missing out. I think that's the message it sends. And hopefully it will change everything for Sancho. Hopefully this will change Sancho's stance, because there is a report coming out from Spain that Sancho has essentially decided to quit Manchester United. And taking the situation further. Again, it's a report from Spain, so I've not given it too much attention, because why would Spanish media know more than English media on this situation ongoing, unless he's been speaking to Spanish clubs. But I think the fact that the club's really willing to back Ten Hag is not just a message to Sancho, but a message to any player that is thinking of turning on the manager. No, the boards are backing this manager. He's here to stay. And I even think with Sancho, if you see that the manager's starting to get a new contract and that we're starting to play good football, you might actually change your stance and go, you know what, I'm going to apologise and all of that as well. Isaac says Sancho will be given a second chance, but only if he apologises. And I mean, considering everyone around him is telling him to apologise, the players are telling him to apologise, everyone around him is telling him to apologise, but himself, the pundits are, you know, everyone in the media is saying apologise. The fact that he hasn't apologised, yeah, I think it's a little bit embarrassing in his sense as well. Again, as 20 Ollie legend said, I couldn't care less about Sancho. He's not done enough in United shirt. And you know what? Sancho isn't missed, as Alex said. One notable aspect was yesterday was hunger and work rate, and that's true. I don't think Pellistri was amazing yesterday. I think he had a decent game, but I think what Pellistri and Garnacho brought massively yesterday was the work rate, what they did off the ball, what they were offering off the ball, and Sancho doesn't do that. And I put on Twitter today a quote by Sir Alex Ferguson, and Alex Ferguson once said, "Hard work will always overcome natural talent when natural talent does not work hard enough." And I think that's the situation with Jadon Sancho. Is Jadon Sancho a more naturally talented player than Anthony? Of course he is, but is Anthony harder working? Is Pellistri harder working? Exactly. And as Alex Ferguson said, hard work will always overcome natural talent when natural talent does not work hard enough as well. And I think, yeah, that was a point that I was like, you know what, that reminds me of Sancho. You know, we don't miss him because everyone yesterday was doing such a good job off the ball. And I do want to get into some stories on Anthony. I do want to get into some stories that Romano has said on the takeover. And I do want to get into Manchester United's new midfield plan. Ten Hag is thinking of making some changes in midfield. But this was my summary of the game. And I said that Varane, Mount and Amrabat returning as well from injury, with bringing some fresh legs and rotation options, made a massive difference to Man United today. I said something we struggled a lot this season is matching our opponent's athleticism and control, particularly midfield. And I mentioned that Mount and Mejbri were a significant upgrade on McTominay and Eriksen, and Amrabat sometimes inverting into the midfield helped a lot with control, but allowed Casemiro to attack more, which was brilliant. But one of the things I mentioned, which relates to what Alex said here, is this thing here, this point here. I said that Pellistri and Garnacho's work rate, off the ball, movement and positional sense were the best I'd seen from our wingers all season. And that's what I wanted to talk about. And that's something that you don't get with Sancho. You don't get that blistering work rate with Sancho. You get a guy that, oh, you know he's talented. You know he can put a few good crosses in, but you don't see a guy doing all this work off the ball. You don't see a guy with this brilliant work rate. And I think the work rate that Pellistri and Garnacho offered yesterday is probably one of the best that we have seen for a while at this football club. And I think as well. And I think, you know, for me, there was a report coming out from Spain. It's not a very good report, so I've kind of ignored this, but it is basically saying that Jadon Sancho has no interest in apologising anytime soon and has essentially quit Manchester United. He feels that quitting the club is his best option, and that is why he's shown little interest in training. So again, there are reports saying that, you know, Jadon Sancho basically quit the club. Obviously he hasn't, but in his head he has. But I think for me, if Ten Hag gets a new contract and if we start playing good football, I think that for me might be enough to get him to change his stance and apologise. Even if we need him or not, you know, it would just be nice to not have that sour situation ongoing as well. Delo was brilliant in the final third yesterday. Yeah, guys, who really impressed you? Let me know in the chat who impressed you a lot yesterday. We'll go into them chats as well. System, profile and balance over individual moments. That's why Brighton is so brilliant. And this is a really good chat message here by Official Addo. The most important thing is system, balance. It's how you play together. The best teams can play together. The best teams work together off the ball and on the ball. The best teams give 100% on and off the ball. They have that balance. They work hard for each other. And that is what the best teams have. And I think you're absolutely correct with that. To be the best team, you've got to work together. You've got to work hard on the ball, off the ball as well. If he apologises now, is that really good enough? Apologise needs to be sincere and not just because he's told to. And I agree with Paul here. even if he does come back and apologise, is this apology enough, guys? I mean, I'm at the point where I'm just done with him. I'm just done with him. The fact that it's even turned to this, I think, is crazy. But yeah, I don't even think an apology is enough. I'd like him to apologise, just for the sense of getting everything back on track. But I think, yeah, he's finished. I think the fact that he's overreacted this much, the whole situation's got this big, for me, yeah, I don't think an apology is enough. And as we were talking about, hard work beats talent, and we know that Ten Hag's massive on hard work. And I think that Ten Hag dropped him because he didn't think he was working hard enough. And I want to talk about someone that did put in a lot of hard work in Mejbri in a minute as well, because Ten Hag's got kind of a new midfield plan to integrate the 6 midfielders that he views as valuable, which are Kobbie Mainoo, Mejbri, Casemiro, Bruno, and Mason Mount. So I do want to talk about that as well, but also maybe the future of Dan Gore as well, who's been absolutely fantastic for us as well. Amrabat was quality and Maguire stood up too. And I have to give it credit where credit is due. I thought Harry Maguire was really impressive as well. If Sancho wants to leave and keep the 350k a week, that ain't going to happen. The thing about Sancho is, he's being paid 350 grand a week to basically say, I'm quitting Manchester United, which I think is absolutely silly as well. Excel says, I'm a huge Maguire critic the last 2 years, but last night he looked calm on the pitch for the first time in ages. Yeah. And I think having a good system around him and a mature system around him probably really helped the likes of Harry Maguire's performance. I think having Onana there, having Dalot there, having Amrabat coming into midfield and inverting and providing someone's answer to, but also Amrabat giving that midfield cover when Casemiro went forward. I think actually as well that he was playing in a more calm team that was in more control. And I did say, actually, weirdly, I said this in the summer, I think that Maguire will be a better player if he had better players around him. I said if all of a sudden we put, sort of Onana in there and some good defensive cover in midfield, Maguire would be a better player. But at the end of the day, he's not the starting quality for Manchester United and he should have moved. But I really liked what I saw from Harry Maguire yesterday. I really liked what I saw from Dalot. I mean, I liked what I saw from everyone. And one of the things that really stood out to me was Hannibal Mejbri as well. And United are looking to give him a new contract. And I'm not one of those people that really likes it when we rush into giving players new contracts off the back of all. They've had 1 or 2 good performances and we're rushing in to give this guy a new contract. I'm not a big fan of when United do that, but I actually think, give Hannibal this new contract. Maybe obviously wait till after Christmas to kind of finalise it and stuff. We've got a good year and a half, but you can tell that he's a good player, a highly rated player. When it was coming out today that Sevilla tried to get Hannibal on loan, there was some really good teams trying to go for Hannibal. We had a really good season in the Championship last year, and what we've seen from him, I think it's been particularly impressive. And I don't know if you guys read my little thread and analysis on Hannibal, and I'll quickly get into this, and then I want to get into some big plans Ten Hag has, as well as some takeover news. But it was said here, the difference Hannibal Mejbri had made to United side in the last few games has really surprised me. This is what I said. I said, one of the biggest issues that we've had is our inability to match our opponent's physicality and athleticism. When we played Brighton, Spurs, and even Bayern, they were just completely all over us in the midfield, and we couldn't keep up. Against Burnley, statistic for you here, Mejbri covered 12.9 kilometres in that match, a distance that no United midfielder has achieved in the last 5 years. So he's run further than any of our midfielders have in the last 5 years in his first ever 90-minute performance in the Premier League. This is his first ever Premier League start against Burnley, and he ran more distance than any of our players have managed in 5 years. But not only that, Mejbri is currently leading the Premier League in pressures per 90. So the amount of pressing he does per 90. Second place is Rasmus Højlund with 100 presses per 90, which just showcases his extraordinary work rate. You're thinking 12.9 kilometers covered and all this pressing. That is like 3 times Eriksen's work rate. That's how I'd explain it. And I said, what I admire most about Mejbri, and I've not seen a lot of people talking about this. I've really not seen a lot of people talking about this, but I think this is a really good point I've made here, is his commitment to track back and ensure he marks the opposition player on the edge of our box. This has been crucial as most of our recent goals have been conceded due to midfielders losing their man, leaving them unmarked. If you went and did an analysis of the game against Arsenal, the game against Bayern, the game against Spurs, the game against Brighton, if you went and looked at those games and you looked at how we conceded about 50% of our goals in those games, it was Manchester United leaving a man at the top of their box unmarked that the midfielder had not come back, picked up or tracked back, and there is a man free at the top of the box to shoot it in the net. And that is what has been causing us the problem. And what Mejbri did, and I don't know if you guys noticed this, was he absolutely sprint back. And made sure he was picking up the midfielder on the top of the box. You know, he was tracking back, he was doing everything. He was making sure he did not leave his man unmarked. He was making sure that there wasn't a man unmarked at the top of the box, which is where we've conceded about 60-70% of our goals this season. And I thought that was a massive thing he did. And I think, you know, it's not being picked out or commented on enough, but we've left players unmarked, or, you know, midfielders have lost their man and then they've been available to score. And I think Mejbri added so much to that game just because of his work rate and ability. So I said, in summary, Mejbri's ability to outpace rival, apply relentless pressure, and contribute defensively has been much needed remedy. That's how I described it. He was a player that I didn't think would make much of a difference, but when I look into the game, I analysed the game, I think he makes such a difference. I also spoke about his versatility. We saw him in pre-season playing deeper roles, more advanced roles. But even on the ball, you know, Man United don't only have a problem off the ball in midfield in terms of matching opponents' athleticisms. Athleticism, that's not a word. Matching the opponent athletically, physically, you know, fitness-wise. But we have a big problem on the ball in terms of things like retention. I think our retention on the ball has been particularly poor recently, and our control of the game. But a statistic for you on Mejbri, again, was this 90% pass accuracy, which is the highest among attacking midfielders in the Premier League as well. So, you know, while it's basic qualities we're talking about, you know, being able to press, being able to track back, being able to cover distance, and being able not to lose the ball, those basic qualities we don't have a lot of. And I think that's why it made such a difference. You know, it's a few basic qualities, but we really don't have a lot of it at the club, and that made such a difference to me. And I always go back to this quote from Sir Alex: hard work always overcomes natural talent when natural talent does not work hard enough. And there is the statistic for you, the presses per 90 from Hannibal Mejbri. And I really looked at that and I thought, wow, people, that is really impressive. That is really impressive. Big up everybody in the chat. Please do hit the like button, and of course subscribe down below if you're new. Alex B puts an interesting comment in here saying, Amrabat impressed me a lot. Erik Ten Hag needs to opt for including multiple physical midfielders in the 11. And I did think that as well. Amrabat, Casemiro and Bruno, what a midfield three. Everybody get in the live chat. What do you think our best midfield three would be? I do agree with maybe Amrabat, Casemiro and Bruno could probably be our best midfield three. That would be really impressive as well. Gore looked really, really good as well. What I like about Dan Gore was his ability to carry the ball forward as well. I think we are missing a ball carrier in midfield, and you know what we've massively been missing? A Frankie de Jong like player. That's what we've massively been missing as well. Hannibal's a better version than Fred. Well, not quite yet, but yeah, he could technically 100%. He's got Fred's ability off the ball, and technically he's miles better than Fred. But obviously, we'll wait time. We can't get ahead of ourselves. I think Hannibal's brought some brilliant things in, but we can't get ahead of ourselves. We're on 116 likes, guys. So let me know what your ideal midfield three is in the chat as well, and we will get into some news as well. Jason said that he's done with Sancho. He's a liability and is clearly not interested in playing for United. I agree with you there. I'm bored of it. We will talk about Sesko. Benjamin Sesko has been linked to United. I haven't watched a lot of Benjamin Sesko, so yeah, someone in the chat, do let me know about Benjamin Sesko and some stuff on that as well. But Maino is set to come back in, and I want to get into what Erik Ten Hag's masterful midfield plan is going to be with Maino coming back in. It's going to be really, really interesting as well. And I'm really hoping Erik can push these young players to be United level. Would love to see and have more academies in the club for the next 10 years. Exactly. He's giving Dan a chance. He's got Mejbri a chance. He's giving Kobbie Mainoo who's going to get big chances. We could see Amad Diallo get chances. Garnacho's getting chances. Pelistri's getting chances. I'd even think Isaac Hansen. I think he's going to get chances as well. And I think in the future, not quite yet, but someone like Shia Lacey, especially being a right winger and our lack of options at the moment. I mean, I think he's much younger than everyone else, but he's really talented. And even the Ibrahimovic brothers look really, really good. There's some absolutely fantastic talents. And we know that Erik Ten Hag, we saw it at Ajax, is a big fan of developing academy players. And what I like and what I really admire about Ten Hag is when he came in, and a lot of people don't know this, but when Ten Hag came to United, he went to the board and he requested three things. So Ten Hag got offered the job, but he didn't take it at first. Ten Hag could not take the Manchester United job at first. And what he said to the board was, for me to take the job, you have to guarantee me three things. He said to Murphy, he said to Arnold, for me to take the job, you've got to guarantee me three things. He said, one, I want the final say on who gets new contracts or not. I don't want you doing what you did with Ollie and giving Phil Jones and Bayer a new contract and deciding that yourself. I have to say if someone wants a new contract or not. Because at the start of last season, the board wanted to give Fred, De Gea, Shaw, Rashford and Dalot all a new contract. And Ten Hag said, none of them have been good enough. we'll assess at Christmas time which ones we'll extend and which ones will get new contracts. We didn't give Fred one, we didn't give De Gea one, and then that way you don't keep on players that are past their best at the club. The second request Erik Ten Hag had when he joined the club is that he has the final say on who we buy and sell. He said, I will not, you can pick out someone we buy, but I have to approve it. It has to be someone I want. And what we noticed was a lot, Erik Ten Hag said this in January a lot. He said, when I buy someone, it's got to be the right player. There was players that the board had suggested to Ten Hag, and he thought no. And Ten Hag asked for a say in transfer. So that was the second thing Ten Hag asked for. But the third thing that Ten Hag asked for, which I thought was a massive thing, was he said, I want to work with the academy closely. And he's made some, and people don't realize he's made some massive changes to the academy. He said, I want to work with the academy closely. I want to be familiar with the academy, how it works, and have a say in the academy. And what Ten Hag's actually done this year, and a lot of people haven't realized this, is he's basically told the academy that he wants to implement his play style from every age group up. The academy players are now playing the way he wants to play, because he said, you know, if you want to be a great team, then the step from academy to first team shouldn't be a massive step if you're playing a similar style of football. If you're good enough, you're good enough. So this, and we see that happen at Ajax, and Ajax have got one of the best academies in the world. They get them playing a certain way of football all the way through. So that's what I like about Ten Hag, is he went to the United board and he went there with 3 requests, and he said, he got offered the job, and he said, I'm not going to take it unless you can guarantee me these 3 things. You know, he went there, and apparently that actually made it more appealing to Murta and Arnold, that this guy didn't just rush in and take the job right away. He asked for certain things. And what I like about Ten Hag as well is he was rung up by Louis van Gaal. He was rung up by people telling him not to take the Manchester United job. It would be the silliest move of his career. A lot of people rung up Ten Hag and they said, do not take the United job. And, you know, I don't blame him if he didn't, in all honesty. But I liked the self-belief he had in himself. He had Van Gaal ringing him up. He had a lot of people ringing him up saying, no, don't take this job, you'd be silly. Don't take this job, you'd be silly. And he just thought, no, I back myself. I know that this is probably the hardest job in world football, but I back myself. I'm gonna rise to the challenge. And again, that was a big thing that I rated from him as well. Amrabat, Casemiro, Mount and Bruno, all top quality players. Yeah, everyone's saying Amrabat, Mount, Bruno. We're going to talk about the midfield options that we have in a second as well. Amad Diallo is expected back next month. Kobbie Mainoo is actually reportedly could be back next week. Obviously won't be at full fitness, but Kobbie Mainoo could be back really, really soon as well. Alice, Mount, Amrabat, Casemiro and Bruno will be good in the middle. Mount could cross from the left flank is awesome. I have to say, did anyone get really impressed how Mount was almost going in that left centre-back role, but more advanced up the pitch, picking up the balls and playing it across? I actually should do a Mason Mount a bit of analysis on it. I think the way what Mason Mount actually brought when he went into that sort of left-hand side was really, really good as well. 700 people watching, guys, and only 180 likes, so please do hit the like button if you have not already, and of course subscribe down below if you're new. And thoughts on Mount's opportunities now that Casemiro and Amrabat look crucial. Bruno is favourite. I think that there's a way that it will work. I actually think having all 4 midfielders in there and balance, and depth's the most important thing. Having good bench depth, having good depth is the most important thing. If Mason Mount and Mejbri and Mainoo are let's look at this here. Let's say our midfield 3 is Amrabat, Casemiro and Bruno. If our bench is Mejbri, Mainoo and Mount, is that a bad bench? Not at all. You know, that's a good bench. You know, what do you want in your bench? McTominay? You know what I mean? It's, well, Alice, Amrabat is phenomenal, awesome with his attitude in the middle, and also on left back. Casemiro plays a role which made the middle look awesome, yeah, and Varane was excellent. What I loved about Amrabat was because Garnacho likes to stretch the width, because Garnacho likes to play out really wide, that meant that Amrabat could invert into the midfield. We've seen that Man City have done this recently. We see that Arsenal doing it with Zinchenko, but more recently have been trying to, that's why they signed Jurriën Timber to do it at right back. You see a lot of the top teams have kind of been playing with this inverted fullback that kind of plays in the midfield. Liverpool have done it a little bit with Trent. And because Garnacho is a winger that likes to stretch the width, and because Garnacho worked really hard off the ball, followed all of Erik's instructions to do that, we all of a sudden saw, you know, the hard work being put in there by Garnacho. But this allowed Amrabat to invert into the midfield. And I think Amrabat inverting into the midfield made Casemiro better and it made Mason Mount better. Because Mason Mount is more of a free roaming player that's kind of everywhere doing his bits and pieces. But Mason Mount knew he had the license to go forward, where he was involved in both goals. The first goal, we got the pre-assist. The second goal, we got an assist. And you could even argue, you know, that, you know, Pellistri, You know, he played Pellistri and could have got an assist if that didn't turn out to be a corner. You know, Mason Mount was excellent, but also Casemiro had his best game of United shirt, because what's been happening with Casemiro lately is he moves forward. He's a goal threat. He's our top scorer. Casemiro in 1 year has more goal contributions than Sancho has in 3 seasons. You know, Casemiro is a big threat going forward. And you can see that now Casemiro can go forward comfortably, knowing that Amrabat's going to provide the cover. Because what's happened in recent games is Casemiro's gone forward, and all of a sudden they attack, and he's not back there marking his man. And when we've conceded a few goals, Casemiro's almost been at fault because he's not covered the ground, or he's not picked up the man. Whereas now Amrabat is there to cover the ground, pick up the man, and make us a lot better as well. Mount could play right wing. Pellistri will take time to integrate 100%. And I think Mount will see playing sort of right wing and swapping with Bruno. But what I want to do is actually show you Erik Ten Hag's got 2 midfield plans reportedly. So I want to show you what Erik Ten Hag can do with the midfield, and what he apparently plans to do with the midfield. So let me share my screen with you. I think this is going to be really positive news here. So what I want to do is I want to share my chosen 11 with you. So essentially, Casemiro is the DM. Yeah, that is the guy that's going to be DM. But he also views Amrabat and Maino as capable of playing those roles. And then in this position here is Bruno, and this position here is Amrabat. So this is what we almost see as our best midfield 3. And to be honest, the way it is really, it might even be more like this. It might be Casemiro going forward. Weirdly, this is almost our best midfield 3 right now. But what we've got here is essentially, you know, you've got cover here, because then all of a sudden you've got Casemiro and you've got Maino, who we saw playing that deeper role in pre-season. Now with Bruno, you've got Mount and you've got Eriksen. Okay, you've got Mount and you've got Eriksen that's back up to Bruno. But also, let's delete this for now. Even though Amrabat and Maino can play there, so can Mount and so can Mejbri. And then you could almost say, okay, look at the depth here when you actually look at the versatility. This isn't including McTominay. So can Mount, so can Mejbri. So if we look at actually where our midfielders can position themselves, you know, there's quite a lot there. But let's delete this here. Let's go and let's make it a little bit more simple. So essentially what is seen is the best midfield 3 is this. It's kind of Amrabat, Casemiro, Bruno. But Ten Hag kind of has a plan to integrate the likes of Kobbie Mainoo and Hannibal Mejbri a lot more this season, which is what we're going to be talking about. Now, Mason Mount, I wouldn't be surprised if we occasionally see Mount play out here on the right wing like he did for Chelsea. I wouldn't be surprised with that. I wouldn't be surprised if we play certain games where Amrabat does start as a fullback, left back or right back, especially with the lack of ones we have at the moment. And it is more, again, someone like Mejbri, Mount, Maino. What I think we'll see a lot of this season is this, okay? So we're going to see Bruno is going to be undroppable because he is Ten Hag's guy. Casemiro is going to be kind of here. But what's going to happen a bit in games is I think something like this. Amrabat's going to kind of tuck in here. Casemiro is going to be allowed to... We're just going to move the attackers up the pitch for the sake of the video. And we'll just probably play Onana in the De Gea position. And let me just move the defenders back here a little bit. Just so it's clear up. What we're going to see a little bit of is maybe Amrabat playing at fullback and kind of tucking in here, which is going to allow Casemiro and Bruno to get up, but also maybe the likes of, you know, Mejbri, Mount, Maino, whoever's operating in that third midfield role. And all of a sudden, we might see Man United kind of in possession play this formation. Deleu's going to be getting up the pitch here. And what I think we'll see this in possession. I think we could see something like this. So we're going to see almost this in possession. Amrabat inverting. All of a sudden, Deleu's getting up here. That's kind of what we saw, I think, a little bit of. But I do think we've got loads of good midfield options as well. People saying you're forgetting Donny. I mean, I've not put Donny and McTominay in because they were on Ten Hag's for sale list. The reason Donny and Scott McTominay have not been included is because they were on Ten Hag's for sale list this summer. Ten Hag got an opportunity to send Mejbri out on loan. He said no. Ten Hag played Kobbie Mainoo a lot in pre-season. Eriksen, again, Ten Hag likes him still, but more as an experienced benched option. Obviously, Bruno and Casemiro, he loves. Amrabat's his signing. Casemiro is technically a signing. The reason I've not included the likes of Donny and McTominay is because they're not in Ten Hag's long-term plans. And what I like about Ten Hag is Obviously, McTominay wasn't available, but, you know, he went and was like, you know, Dan's going to get a chance, Mejbri's going to get a chance, Donny's going to get a chance instead of these other players as well. Erik Ten Hag can't underestimate the Premier League physicality and need to opt for Amrabat and Hannibal types over Eriksen. Yeah, I think in games maybe like if we played someone like Sheffield United or if we played someone like Luton Town, I think potentially Eriksen works when you know you're going to dominate possession. Obviously, Burnley are a possession-based side. A lot of people don't realise that. I think if you know you're going to have all of the possession, if you know it's going to be a slow tempo and you're going to dominate possession like Sheffield United, I think they're the games where Eriksen can work. Possession-based games where their midfield isn't super athletic, where the opposition's midfield isn't super athletic, Eriksen works. But I think with the Premier League and the physicality of most teams, most games we've got to go into with probably the likes of Amrabat, Mejbri, Casemiro, Bruno, Mount and Maino. I see those as the six midfielders. I see, you know, the DM role mostly being filled by the likes of Amrabat and Casemiro, the sort of lower 8 role being filled by the likes of Mount, Maino, and sometimes Casemiro pushing up, sometimes Amrabat pushing up, and then that 10 role was kind of Bruno and then obviously Mount and Eriksen at times. But I look at everything at United and what I see here and what I like is Mejbri, Maino, Mount, Amrabat, Bruno, Casemiro. That's 6 decent options, not bringing in Eriksen, not bringing in Donny, not bringing in McTominay. And all of a sudden, because at the start of the season, I generally was thinking, let's loan Hannibal. And I was kind of surprised that Ten Hag didn't loan him out. And, you know, I thought Hannibal's a good player, but I thought he needed a loan. He's obviously proved me wrong in these first 2 games. But I do think without having the players out, we do have a decent midfield. I think now we've got Amrabat in. Now we've got Mejbri in. Because Mejbri's like a new signing, Maino's like a new signing, and Amrabat is a new signing. Now, Mejbri and Maino won't 100% be ready, and they're young. They're going to have limitations, especially Maino, because Mejbri had a whole year in the Championship to develop himself and pick up key skills. But it feels like with Mejbri, Maino, and Amrabat, like there is almost 3 new midfield signings there. And you could even say with Mason Mount, it's almost like 4 midfield signings there as well. So, yeah, and obviously we do want to talk about the Mason Mount, Bruno Fernandes, Casemiro midfield 3. Is that risky? I think potentially there's always a big risk playing that midfield 3. I think it depends on the type of game you play, but I think with that midfield 3, if you then play Amrabat inverting or you turn it into a diamond, I think that midfield works a lot better. Garnacho, Maino, Mount, Mejbri, Pellistri should not be restricted to Carabao Cup. I agree. What I really applaud Ten Hag for yesterday was rotation. I think he learned his lesson about the importance of rotation. And you could see with the fresh legs, we're able to play at a much, much better tempo as well. And I think, you know, rotation is proved to be really, really important in the squad, really, really beneficial. So what I'd like to see more of the season from Ten Hag, because I will criticize Ten Hag, but I'm always going to be backing Ten Hag until there's changes higher up. But what I will say is he's got to rotate. What will cost us is if Ten Hag is stubborn and doesn't rotate and plays the same players. That will cost us a lot. A lot of things he can't help, like the amount of players out at the moment. But if he wants to prevent that in future, he wants to help that, he's got to rotate a lot. I think rotation will be really important as well. Alex makes a good point here. Amrabat and Hannibal both add that tenaciousness and nastiness that we do not have enough of in the squad. Yeah, they have that hunger. They have that desire to get stuck in and make an impact as well. They have that a lot as well. And that's what I like about Hannibal. He's so eager to get in. I feel like we lacked hunger in the midfield. Like McTominay, who we used to say, oh, he works really hard, turned into Jog-Tominay recently. McTominay's come off the bench and just jogged around. Eriksen has that I'm too nice, I'm too delicate, teddy bear kind of vibes. Casemiro's good, but like when he was playing with Eriksen, it doesn't work because they're both not good at covering ground. But all of a sudden, you bring in players like Amrabat and Hannibal, who are really good technically, really good on the ball, really good at pressing, really good at following instructions off the ball. And all of a sudden, we see Mason Mount look better, we see Casemiro look better, and I'm like, oh, balance and control, and we get a lot better. Who would have thought? You bring some balance, you bring some control to the team, and we look miles better. Hannibal was a walking red card. He needs to calm down, says Kevin. I agree. My only criticism of Hannibal is he's very rash. You know, and look, we loved how he got sent off versus Liverpool. Like, we can't deny that it was quality that he got sent off versus Liverpool was the good moment as well. Unlucky for Pellistri not to get that goal, but his work rate has been good whenever he's played. Hopefully he gets his goal, deserves more. Yeah, what I like about Pellistri is his work rate. And for me, one of the reasons behind our bad start was work rate. not doing off the ball work. When every player did their job off the ball, all of a sudden we could see the system that Ten Hag was trying to play. We could see the system that Ten Hag was trying to implement, and we could say, wow, that's good. Now, I do want to get into a few news stories, bits and pieces and stuff before I end the live stream. Anthony has flown to England today to meet with the Greater Manchester Police, but I don't know when he'll return to the club. I could not tell you that. As well, the PFA are doing an investigation into the Manchester United Sancho situation, but Manchester United have said they've assigned him with his own coach. That's news coming out. Ten Hag came out after the game and said Amrabat, he's the player that will give the team everything they need. Amrabat's got quality, energy, and he's going to add a dynamic to the team. And I think Ten Hag is spot on with that. Eric Ten Hag spoke about the youngsters and said, you've got to earn your place, and these players earned it today. I'm not going to give a youngsters a chance. They've got to earn it. Ten Hag said on Mason Mount that Mason Mount played very well, and when he's fully integrated into the squad, we'll see him play even better. This is the start of Mason Mount's journey. You'll see what he'll add. But Fabrizio Romano came up with an update today. And Fabrizio Romano said in his update today, he said Jim Ratcliffe wants a majority stake in Manchester United and full control over the club, which is positive news. Not that I'm the biggest fan of Jim, but apparently he wants full control of the club. He's not going to give our owners anything. You know, he wants full control. And it was also said by Romano that Sheikh Yassim buying United is still open, but he's not hearing much from his sources. So it wasn't a big update from Romano, but essentially he's saying both buyers want to buy the club as well. But also I want to get into some comments that Ten Hag made on Garnacho here. And Ten Hag said on Garnacho that his contribution in the first few games of the season in his starts versus Wolves and Spurs were not good enough. Even though he had some good actions, he wasn't good enough. But as you can see, he's always a threat, but he just wasn't good enough. He said it's normal for a player of Garnacho's age to have games where he's not good enough and room for improvement. We love him here, and today he was good because he did a lot of things for me. He also praises Garnacho off the ball, which was brilliant. So I just thought I'd summarize sort of a few of the news because I realized I'm like half an hour into my live stream and I had a few like news stories I said I'd talk about, and then we just went on this whole tangent of talking about Hannibal and how impressive he's been, among many other things as well. People as well. I was about to say something. Do you ever I was about to say something and I couldn't remember what I was going to say, so I just repeated what I just said. That sometimes I lose concentration as well. I know Arsenal on tonight. I think they're on about 8 o'clock. They're playing Brentford, and I know Newcastle are playing Man City tonight. So I've got football training, so I'm not going to see a lot of that game. But I am going to wrap up today's live stream here because Alice has got to get going because she does football training. So please do hit the like button. Of course, subscribe down below. See you next time, and bye.